Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. And welcome to tonight's Marvin Fraser. Yes, we are live. So good night, good Thursday night to you, and welcome to tonight's edition of Conversations here on Marvin Fraser Radio 360 Live. I'm your host for tonight's program, Sir Ash. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me apologize. I didn't announce. It sounds a little muffled. Okay, it sounds a little muffled. So I didn't announce because I should have announced earlier because Lexi was just before the start of tonight's program. Lost contact with her. And informed me that she was unavailable that she would be unavailable tonight. So, no matter of that, I am current. As a matter of fact, I should offer my condolences to him because he informed me as well that the individual, the gentleman that he grew up knowing as his grandfather, died today, and so he's not in the best of spirits, and I'm sure Lexi wouldn't be either. So condolences to him and his family, and all the best to Lexi as they engage in this moment of bereavement. And so naturally, because that was what was planned for this evening, let me do this and make sure I'm monitoring properly. Because that was what was planned for this evening, we now have to change course. And when I tell you, I got that information like right before the show started. You understand what I'm saying? So this is something I'm going to have to do off the cuff, and that's not a problem for me at all. As you're aware, I am able to deal with these issues and pivot immediately, so not a problem. Let me welcome you again and ask that you share the live so that other individuals can tune in and be a part of this evening's very informative, entertaining, and educational program. Now, what I will do this evening, therefore, let me do this. I don't like that one too much. Let's go here. Let's go here. We're going to share the live on my page, and I'm going to also ask you to share it on yours. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. Where is it? Ooh. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to have to really offer serious congratulations. Um, do, 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 do. Yes, there's my partner, McGregor. Let me big him up. Kada Williams, valedictorian, someone that he is associated with. And so congratulations to him and Kada, who emerged valedictorian at this year's SVGCC. And we could talk about that a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure I share, and I'm not finding the stream yet. I don't know what's going on. So just give me a few seconds. Let me find the stream, please, and thanks. Yes, let me go here. So, and I find somehow tonight my internet isn't doing too well either. I'm not sure why. It's not doing too. Lord have mercy. Take this off here. Yes, here. And I'm tuning in there. Right. It's better there. Yes. Wonderful. All right. All right. So congratulations are in order to all of the students who graduated from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College this year. Hundreds of them did. Congratulations to those who got outstanding awards. Kada Williams, a young lady associated with my good friend McGregor Ellis. She emerged valedictorian, twin sisters, and Kada is as I said, she is valedictorian for SBGCC, and all of the individuals who emerge well. This is evidence that the education revolution is alive and well. It's working. The students, other students who are graduating from secondary school, congratulations to you as well, finishing that part of your education. You have written the CXC exams, and I know you're waiting on your results. And then there are those who graduated from primary school, having written the CPEA, the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment examinations, and they would be going into secondary school 100% because of universal access to secondary education. So congratulations are out to everybody. The son of our Minister of Agriculture, Sabuto Caesar, his son, Saj Caesar, emerged as a top student with, I believe, 99.2%. Listen, that was fantastic. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to all the students who were successful in attaining a passing grade at the CPEA. But even for those who didn't, you know your place in secondary school is assured thanks to universal access to secondary education. The education revolution is alive and well. And I know many individuals do not like when I talk about it, and many individuals hate it even more when I go back and speak to the record of the previous government and comparing it with the record of this current government, the ULP administration, when it comes to education. But at a time, especially in an election year, when both parties are going to be asking individuals to support them, to vote them, to be the next government of this country, it is important that their records be examined. You cannot tell me that we must look forward and look forward with such intensity and focus that we forget what we have had to endure in the past to get where we are. I believe that it is important for us to be aware of the developments we've experienced in education, how we got there, who took us there, even as we discuss who we are going to trust to build on what we have and take us even further. And so it is important that even as we critique the existing government's record, that we must also look at what existed before and what the current government had to build on so that we can assess the level of development and growth that we've experienced. It's only fair. You see, especially when the current administration is being criticized by an opposition that seeks to get the vote of the public by telling them what is wrong with the existing system and how they will improve it, which is, if I'm to be honest with you, I've not heard much of. I've heard that they will continue this and they will continue that and they will build on it. But it is important for us to contextualize that. And what do I mean by that? Well, it would be one thing if a brand new set of guys with a brand new party came and said, listen, when it comes to education, trust us, because this is what we're going to do. If you give us the opportunity to develop the education system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this is what we're going to do. That's one scenario. But when the reality is that those who are criticizing what exists and telling you what they're going to do, when they have a record because they're not new, because they had an opportunity, because they were there, before, then you would have to ask, okay, I hear you. Let's look at your record when you were there. Now, my good friend Asbot is asking, was Marvin? Marvin was there last week. We had a really good program in Marvin, and you might have missed that. So that was last week or week before, Director? Week before that, because we didn't have a program last week. Yes. So he's not on this evening. He was on last week. So my apologies if you're expecting Marvin. Now, the point I was making is that because there is a record, we would be within our, to me, it would be reasonable for us to look at what the record, examine that record, and first of all, examine it to see what was done, and then do a comparative analysis of what is being done now. Once you've done that, I believe you'd be in a better position to make a decision, proper judgment as to where you go from there. So let's look at what is happening now. And when we do that, we would understand what they're asking the Vincentian public to vote against. And by voting against it, giving them the opportunity to do something different. So what do we have? We have early childhood centers run by the government. Across this country, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has included or attached early childhood, what the Americans call pre-K, or what we know to be preschool, to primary schools. That exists now. It never existed before, but it is something that the government has introduced. So many schools across the country, many primary schools across the country, have preschools attached to them. We are moving to what the Americans, or at least the New Yorkers, call universal pre-K, where each primary school would have a preschool next to them. I know there's one at Bayabu. I believe there's one at Mariaqua. I believe there's one in Chomoka. There are different places where it already exists. And the idea is to have universal pre-K, where all primary schools would have a preschool attached to it. And so children can go to a preschool operated by the government and then move into primary school. That is something that was introduced or is being introduced by this administration, not before. That's what exists now as far as preschool care is concerned. Then we have, well, we know we have compulsory primary education. We know we have that. We have universal access to secondary education. What does that mean? It means that every child of secondary school age will be offered a place in secondary school once they get to that age. It is important to note that in 1998 there was a World Bank project where a consultancy was done to look at the issue of universal access to secondary education. At that time, the former leader of the opposition, Mr. Adam Eustace, was the Minister of Finance. The discussions between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the World Bank ended with the New Democratic Party administration giving the commitment to consider whether or not it would be possible or feasible to implement universal access to secondary education in the year 2030. Mind you, this is 1998, so we're looking at a 32-year window. The commitment was when 2030 comes, we will consider whether or not St. Vincent and Grenadines is able to implement universal access to secondary education. What does it mean to consider? Excuse me, just one second. Can I have some coffee, please? I had started it, but I didn't complete it. Thank you very much. What does it mean to consider? My director is not a coffee maker, but I'm asking my director to just facilitate me. What does it mean to consider? It means that when the year 2030 comes around, that the administration, had we been under the administration of the NDP, that we're not even sure if we would have had it. You would have thought about it and gone, is it possible? Maybe it's possible. Or maybe it's not possible. There's a small jar in the cupboard. Maybe it's not possible. And so because it's not possible, they could have delayed the universal access to secondary education by another 1, 5, 10 years. That was their commitment. Not a commitment to implement it. Not a commitment to ensure that by 2030 all Vincentian 12-year-olds would be in secondary school, but instead a commitment of consideration. In the meantime, what existed, what persisted, was that about 60%, 55% of our students who were of secondary school age could not have a place and did not find a place in secondary school. You must then ask yourself, what became of those students? Well, some went to law and trade, 1 or 2 of them might have migrated, some of them got into undesirable activities, females got pregnant. Some of them, of course, not all of them, some would find things to do and so forth. But it paints a dismal picture of what existed for our 12-year-olds. So, even now, as you hear the criticisms by the opposition about what exists and what they would do better, be reminded that while today we have universal access to secondary education in 2025, had the NDP still been in office, we would likely have been 5 years away from the consideration of this policy. More importantly, what the NDP said they would consider in 32 years, the ULP implemented in 4. The ULP, thank you very much. The ULP was elected to office in 2001, and by 2005, there was universal access to secondary education. Look at the difference in progress. Look at the difference in how things are done. One party is saying, we would consider it in 32 years. Another party comes into office and says, we're going to do it in 4. And if you ever heard the story, and I use the word story loosely, but if you ever heard Dr. Gonzalez recount the experience, you would hear him tell you that the individuals at the World Bank thought it was not feasible, that we weren't ready. I mean, here you are, 2 years ago, telling the World Bank that you would consider it in 32 years, and the World Bank comes back and you say, no, we're going to do it in 4 years. Now, clearly, In the same way, they must have looked at him with, I don't know if disbelief is the right word, when he hatched his plan for the airport. They must have been thinking, listen, you need to find some head doctor somewhere. Because 2 years ago, we met with, or 3 years ago, we met with the government and they said they'll consider it in 32 years. Now we coming to talk to you and you're telling me you're going to implement it in a couple of years. That's impossible. Impossible. But we're seeing the benefits of it 20 years later. Think about it. In in 2001, less than 40% of our students are achieving a passing grade for what was then called common entrance. Less than 40%. Less than 40% of our students are achieving a passing grade at common entrance. In 2025, we had about 83% of our students, more than double, attaining a passing grade. Our children are performing better. And the government has implemented a policy to ensure that our students are accommodated as they perform better. And so now all students leaving primary school are accommodated with a space in secondary school, all of them. Look at how the government did it. The government knew that spaces need to be made. You need to make space to accommodate students. And so as you went across the country, what you saw were wooden structures, plywood buildings, additionally on the compounds of school to take in the students. That's one thing that was done. The second thing that was done was that new schools were created. I remember in 2010, 2011, 2010, I would drive to Sandy Bay to teach a double period PUB class every Wednesday, voluntarily. I offered my services, it was accommodated. Right? So the Sandy Bay Secondary School is a new school, a school that the ULP created to accommodate, to create spaces for the children. Good evening, sis. How are you doing? By the way, I ain't see Kojo tell me good evening. I know he's in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and he was supposed to link me up this evening, but he ain't linked me up. But that's all right. No problem, Kojo. I know you're busy. So, yes, sir. No problem, buddy. I'm as bored. Right? You're supporting Marvin, by the way? Let me know, Let me know. All right. So, the Sandy Bay Government School, a new school, established by this Union Labour Party administration to expand spaces for students. The Western George Secondary School, a new school established by this ULP administration. The Thomas Saunders Secondary School, a new school established by this ULP administration. So that's three brand new schools that never existed. Three new secondary schools that never existed before. And the government also expanded new plants to accommodate some existing schools. So for example, and also the Bukumenbi Secondary School, don't forget that as well. So that's four. Four new schools. The Bukumenbi Secondary was also a new school that was established by this government. And then you had plants new plants done, expanded to accommodate more students. So you had the Barony Secondary School moved to Peters Hope, now called the Central Leeward Secondary School. That's a new building to accommodate the students who are at the Barony Secondary School. More spaces made available. The JP Eustace or Emmanuel Kingston, new building, again, built by this administration, right? And there are other examples. The Union Island Secondary School, the Beckway Anglican High School, many schools built and to the tune of millions of dollars, so that secondary school students can be accommodated. That is how the this government acted differently to show progress in the education system through the education revolution. Through the education. And I'm just talking secondary schools because there are primary schools that were built as well too. But I'm just talking secondary schools. So while under the NDP you had 55%, 50% of our 12-year-olds not going on to secondary school, now you're having 100% of them going on, with space being made through the building of new schools, establishing of new schools, the refurbishing and expansion of existing schools to accommodate the increase in student numbers going to secondary school. And so when you see those students graduating for common entrance, those students can be filled with hope because they know a space is waiting for them. It's kind of like in the Bible now. When they say, in my father's house are many mansion, and you know say that once you live a particular way, your mansion is secured for you. Well, the students in primary school know that in secondary school, there are many, hey, good night, everybody. Good night, Boyens. Glad to have you. And talking education, it wasn't the planned topic for this evening. I was supposed to be doing carnival. I was supposed to be having the young soca sensation Lexi on. But just before we started the program, we got news from her manager, who's also a dad, that she would not be able to make the program this evening. And so I had to pivot almost immediately. And instead of saying no program, which I didn't want to do, I decided I could have a conversation with my viewers about education, because everybody graduating, and I know Boyens, you had graduation, and no doubt your students would do well at this time. So we see what is happening with education. We see what is happening specifically with secondary education as the government seeks to expand through the education revolution the opportunities for students who are 12 years old. Now, just like the students who passed the CPA, who already got their results, the students writing CXCs, they graduated too, which is the students who now have the opportunity, all of them, 100% of them, to go to secondary school. And you know something? In a very short space of time, the Thomas Sanders Secondary School established itself as a force to be reckoned with, placing in the top 4, top 5 regarding results in this country academically, and also dominating where sports is concerned. A new school. Sandy Secondary School fantastic results. Students attaining 9 and 10 and 11 passes. As a matter of fact, if you remember, I don't know if you do, so let me remind you, right? The West St. George Secondary School was formed and it accommodated students that did not pass the common entrance exam. So no one who went to West St. George had passed the common entrance exam. The first cohort, these are things you gotta remember, I'm trying to be very calm tonight. I ain't shouting. I ain't aggressive tonight. I take my time because I want to discuss. And I didn't organize the line so that you could call tonight, but that's all right. The first cohort of students at West St. George who wrote the CPEA got 66.4% passes. 66.4. So let me put it together. Remember, 5 years before, none of them had passed common entrance. Under an NDP administration, the majority of those students would not be in secondary school, would be knocking about the place, getting involved in our kind of undesirable activities. The ULP says, nah, let's create opportunities for you. Let's give you the opportunity to see what you could do. 5 years later, the students who under the NDP would have been condemned, 66.4% pass rate. 66 student going on to A-level, to community college. Do you see what opportunity does? And there are many, many students who can give you the example that they didn't do very well in common entrance or that they didn't pass at all. But given the opportunity, they were able to succeed. And I like the point that Boyens is making here. So I focused on the expansion of the plant to accommodate students. But a very important aspect that Boyens commented on, which I can't miss, was that there was an aggressive move to train teachers at various levels, not just going to teachers college, because I graduated teachers college in 1996, and people who were going to teachers college, under the NDP, what we lacked was specialized training of teachers in things like early childhood education and so forth, special education and those type of things at university levels. And under this administration, you had a ramping up. That's the term that Boyens used, and I agree with him. A ramping up of teachers, of teacher training in those specialized areas. Literacy, numeracy. Now, mind you, we still have problems with literacy and numeracy. We still have problems with students who are moving through the system, not developing their reading capacity as they go along as they ought to, so that you may find students who are in grade 5, but they may be reading at grade 3 level. You may find that. You may find the odd child. You may find students moving through. Look, I finished secondary school. As a matter of fact, I finished university and I hate maths. I am sure if you give me a CXC maths paper right now, I'll fail it. Okay, but I wouldn't fail it, but I wouldn't get one. Because I don't like maths at all. So there's students who struggle with the various aspects of things. But overall, you can see the improvement in the output as we create the more space, we improve the plants, the teaching, learning environment, and we train teachers. I still think we can get more from teachers. I still think when you look at the money that we're spending in education and teacher training and so on and so forth, that we can get more out of it still. But we get in there. I still think we get more. I still think that as teachers commit to the task at hand and really put in the effort, we get even more. There are some amazing teachers out there who go the extra mile to bring out the best in their students. And there is a minority that couldn't care whether Monday they're not committed, they're always absent, they don't focus when in the classroom. But that's a minority. And thankfully, so that because it's a minority, you're still having remarkable results at all levels from our students. All levels. And that's because the majority of teachers take the vocation seriously and work knowing that they have the responsibility of molding young minds and preparing them for the future. Now, these students, when they graduate, they know that there's a community college that will absorb many of them once they meet the requirements for entry. The four divisions of the community college, the technical vocational education division, the division of general studies, arts and general studies, the nursing division, nursing education, and the teacher education. Four divisions. And I tell you, when I left school, technical as it was called then, was really the place where we went to learn to type and do secretarial thing and so on, and some mechanic and so on. So if you want to bright and you didn't get the full subjects to go advanced, you go technical. You couldn't get a work, you get 3 subjects, 4 subjects, you go technical. There was a stigma associated to technical as it was known then. Today, the division of technical and vocational education and training attract the best and the brightest. The young females go to do their business administration, their entrepreneurship, their agriculture, their auto mechanic or auto mechanic engineering, their air conditioning and refrigeration, their hotel and tourism studies, their culinary arts. There has been such a fantastic expansion of courses offered at the division of technical and vocational education and training. I gotta make up my boys. He on there, and I ain't doing it just because he on, because you know I always support him and I always make him up. For the expansion that has occurred at that division under his leadership. And our best and our brightest go there and are trained for the job market. I agree with that. Boy is making some fantastic points. He says, those amazing teachers you refer to I call master teachers. And the system must find creative ways of using these master teachers for more maximum impact, to have a more maximum impact. And I agree with that. More bang for the buck, because you have a really fantastic maths teacher, but they're in school, like the grammar school, or the Thomas Sanders, using technology. Look, universities in England and in the US and so forth, even and UE, you have the headquarters in Barbados, but they teach students all across the region. I did my LLB through the University of London. And in my cohort, there were students from Asia, from Canada, from the region. And someone in London, and it don't even have to be London, is able to teach students all across the globe. Why can't we employ, as Bowens is saying, and I agree with him, the fantastic math teacher who teaches at Thomas Sanders, who gets 90, 100%, and I'm using Thomas Sanders arbitrarily, not just because my director is an alumni. Why can't we use that teacher and use the technology, the whiteboard technology and so on, so that students from other schools across St. Vincent and Grenadines have the benefit of his tutelage? Why not? So I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I agree with that 100%. So, good night, my sister. So you have that. And you have the expansion of offerings at the college. You have have the Bachelor's of Nursing program at the college. You have that. The traditional programs being offered, non-traditional programs being offered as well. And hundreds of students enroll yearly at all four divisions. And they graduate with qualifications that allow them to be absorbed into the job, move into the job, to be integrated rather into the job market, or even to pursue higher level education. So they marched across the stage yesterday. Proud, proud, proud people. No, not the before yesterday. No, those students know that awaiting them are opportunities in the job market and many opportunities for post-secondary education, for tertiary level, university level education. Because when I left school, you had two island scholarships being offered. I thought that was added when the politicians that didn't come number one or number two. So I thought it was added. I think a fourth was added for the same reason. But today, as of last year, there were about 103 national scholarships, awards, exhibitions, and bursaries. 103. Now, let's think about that for a moment. If 700 and something students, graduated, you look at about 1/7. 1/7 is maybe about 16% or thereabout. Think about it. About 16% of students who graduate get some sort of scholarship, bursary assistance from the government. Think about that for a second. Let's go back to a situation where you had the whole A levels in my time consisting of about 120 students. The whole A levels. 60 students per year for say second year. Lower level, what is call it? Lower six and upper six, yes, in my year. Lower six and upper six. Now there's 60 students in upper six and 60 students wrote and graduated. 10% would be 6 students. 15% would be 9. So, to be commensurate with what is happening now, 100 and something students, around 17%, 16% of the students who graduated getting scholarships. That government needed to give about 9 scholarships at least, about 15% of the 60 students who were in upper 6. They gave 2 or 3, which is 5%. They got as high as 4. They didn't even give 10%. And I'm using percentage, yeah? Not just numbers. I'm using percentage. Last year, this government gave about 16% of the students who graduated either a national scholarship, an island scholar, as they call them, an exhibition, a national award, or a bursary. And then, during the year, almost 2,000 of them got tuition assistance from Service Commission. Now, naturally, those that would not be limited to the students who graduated the year before. That's general. But no doubt, some of the students who graduated last year or that year got assistance as well. So if you were to look at the sum total of students who got assistance, tuition assistance, whether it's just scholarship or bursary, tuition assistance, whatever, from the government, I am sure it exceeded 30%. I am sure of that. I can bet my bottom dollar on that. That is the difference with between what existed then and what exists now for education and educational opportunities, So that people now don't have to worry about university education and going forward because they know assistance is available. As a matter of fact, the Prime Minister is on a record saying no Vincentian should say they ain't going to university because they don't have the means to do so. He's on a record saying that. And so, look, there's no excuse. One of the things I raise from time to time in discussions is that many individuals who are benefiting from these policies now may be of the opinion that it was always that way. And unless their parents, and in some cases grandparents, tell them no, it wasn't, they may go away with the fallacy that what they're experiencing now, what they're benefiting from now, is not new, and it was always that way. So it doesn't matter who runs the government or which party is in office, we would always have it that way. And that's a fallacy that we need to address. It is a fallacy that we need to address because it was not always that way. And I would go even further and make the point that if government changes, it will not always be that way. I ain't going to talk about Bowen's business, but he'll be able to give you his own personal story and others like him. The previous government, while this government is funding students, and I have heard of students who sometimes the government give them a bursary and so on, and they have to follow up on the government regarding the payment of fees with the UE. I've heard of that, so I'm not going to sit down here and pretend and try to mislead people. But previously, it had gotten so bad. I remember Dr. Gonzalez making the point that when he came into office, our country owed UE $10 million in unpaid fees. Now, understand this. We had in 2001 a fraction of the student enrollment that we have now. Across all campuses of the UE, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is second in enrollment, or the first non-resident student body. So the biggest body of students is from the host country. So in Trinidad, the biggest one are the Trinidadians. In Barbados, the biggest one, the Bajans. In Jamaica, the same thing. The second largest body of students on the campuses, Vincentians. And we owe back debt of $10 million to UE. When we had a sprinkling of students here and there on UE, the government didn't prioritize education. And students have told me about the embarrassment they faced. The embarrassment they faced at the university because their fees weren't being paid. That don't happen now. Yes, you might email and so on. And you contact Service Commission, they sort it out. They sort it out. So imagine having a sprinkling, but still running up a $10 million debt that ain't getting paid and students get embarrassed. But you would hear them tell you about how fantastically the country's treasury was being managed and how little debt they had, and it was in the red. And as a matter of fact, they had no debt; they had a surplus budget, but they owe you $10 million. They have 40% poverty, 26% indigence. With a surplus budget. The opportunities that exist today for the students who graduated the community college, a lot of them, no doubt, are looking immediately to get absorbed into the job market. Some would apply immediately to university and may do things online. Some may look towards going off to the University of the West Indies, any of the campuses. They may look to go to Taiwan or Cuba, or wherever scholarships are available. I noticed recently that there is an advertisement for Moroccan scholarships. I remember Dr. Gonzalez talking about that before. They had started before. I remember a few students went to Morocco. Some of them came back home because it's a different kind of society. Yeah? It's a different kind of society. I can tell you that. They speak Arabic and French. So some students may not have been able to deal with the cultural differences and so forth. Northern Africa. So some came back home. Well, I see there's a resurgence in it. It's an OECS scholarship, so students across the OECS are able to apply for the Moroccan scholarships. If you're interested, go to the Service Commission, find out about it, and maybe you can apply for a scholarship. Trust me, if you're young, you're not for lose. Take the scholarship. I went to Morocco. I visited that place. I spent about 3 weeks there, close to a month. It's a beautiful place. Take the scholarship. So students who graduated are no doubt looking to go on. But we didn't have Moroccan scholarships back then. We didn't have Taiwan scholarships back then. We had Cuban. We didn't have 100 and something national scholarship exhibitions, bursaries, and so forth. We didn't have 2,000 plus students getting tuition assistance. We had none of those things. We have them now. And I'm encouraging students to make use of the opportunities that we have. Because they're there. And as young people, and as parents of young people, we need to secure those opportunities for our children, for our grandchildren. because we understood, or rather we understand, what it took to get here. And I'm sure we are aware that it can be undone like that. And we've seen it happen. If you look, for example, at the number of the policies that were implemented, let's look at the US, for example, under Biden. Build Back Better, and so on, trillions of dollars and so forth, a lot of them by an executive order or undone. And so don't think that because something exists, a party or a government cannot undo it and rob individuals of those opportunities. It can be done. So you have to think about what you want to see going forward, whether or not you want to see the continuation, the expansion of these opportunities for more Vincentian young people, more Vincentian students. You want to see the continued improvement in the pass rates at the CPEA. You want to see the continued building on universal access to secondary education. You want to see the expansion of courses so that the community college can be now a university college of the West Indies, offering more bachelor programs to Vincentians locally so they don't have to go overseas. And that will happen. And you want to see more and more students being assisted by the government with their university training. And I believe that based on what we've seen over the years, that our government will continue to build on those things and ensure that Vincentians continue to reap opportunities after opportunities, opportunities upon opportunities for advancement. How far this goes, how much longer this goes, depends on you. Each and every one of you. It's your decision, it's your choice. I encourage you to think about it, and when the time comes, make the right choice. Make sure that you put back the government that has brought you the education revolution, that offers all of the opportunities that we discussed over the last hour to the students of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us this evening on another edition of Uplift with Sion Marshall. We apologize for not having the guests that we should have had, but because of personal circumstances, Lexi was unable to join us this evening. We'll try again to see if you can get on another program, but because of her absence, I decided to have a discussion on education, congratulating all of the students who graduated, whether it's primary school, secondary school, college, community college, or even universities across the globe, including my own daughter. Congratulations to all of you, and please make the best use of the opportunities available. Until next week, when I'm back with you with another edition of Uplift with Sion Marshall. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good night.